Welcome to the Morning Energy Show, your go-to source for inspiring conversations with the brightest minds in the solar industry. Today, we're honored to have a powerhouse in the industry join us, Sam Taggart. As the founder of D2D Experts and a trailblazer in door-to-door and direct sales, Sam has reshaped the way sales teams succeed. With over 200 episodes of the D2D podcast under his belt, countless interviews with the best in the business, and a proven track record of training and coaching tens of thousands of sales reps, Sam knows what it takes to dominate. In this episode, we'll hear all about his highly anticipated new book, Eat What You Kill, mindset shifts that drive personal and professional success, and Sam's strategies for thriving in direct and door-to-door sales. And now your host of the Morning Energy Show, Jake Hess.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Morning Energy Show. I'm very excited to have the Sam Taggart on here, one of the best and well-known salespeople in the entire country for all of the things that he's created and the lives that he's impacted. Sam, thank you so much for coming on here. I know the audience is very happy to hear from you.
Oh, excited to be here. This is fun.
Right on. I have a whole lot of questions for you, and I'm excited to go through these. But one of the first ones I wanted to start with was one of the most impactful ones that I've seen come across the door-to-door space. I wish it was there when I was knocking doors because, I mean, honestly, I want one. So
I do too. I'm like, I don't have one.
The Golden Door Award. The Golden Door Awards have become one of the highest levels of achievement in the door-to-door space. What did these awards mean to you after seeing the impact they have had?
I honestly was reflecting on like 8 years of, we're going on Door-to-Door Con 8, and I think we'll have 150 submissions this year. It doesn't mean they've all been approved, but I mean, we started with 22 the first year. So to see the 1%, and we've had to raise the bar every year.
Sorry, wait, you had these on the first year of your conference?
First year of conference.
Okay, very good.
And so I just was calling people I know that hit those kind of accolades. So those that are listening, a golden door is you have to do 100 self-generated installs in solar, or it could be 200 if you sat somebody else's lead, or you took a lead or a set, like, and somebody else closed your lead essentially. So 200 points or a half a point or 100 points. And so, each industry, like pest control was 1,000. And then we added revenue because back then, $450 contract value is pretty normal in pest control. And all of a sudden somebody does 650,000 in pest control service, but they didn't hit 1,000. So we added that. Well, we added at 550, then it went to 650. This year it's going to 750. And so just like every year, even in solar, it was like a megawatt. And then all of a sudden guys were getting triple golden doors. And we were like, holy crap. Like, so we had to keep upping it. And it's been fun to see people and what they've been able to do, and just kind of this rising tide each year is that award has grown, but it's tangibly created a new 4-minute mile every year as people continue to break records.
I love that. I was actually going to ask you, why do you have to keep elevating? Why do you think people keep hitting it? And I love that reference of the 4-minute mile. For those listeners that don't know what you're referring to, do you want to tell us?
Yeah, so Roger Bannister, forever nobody could break a 4-minute mile, and all of a sudden Roger Bannister goes and does a 4-minute mile. So he runs the mile under 4 minutes, and then shortly after, within like months, multiple people ran a 4-minute mile. And that same effect has happened because you take a guy that works in a small solar company, he comes to Door-to-Door Con, and he sees dudes throwing in 200, 300 solar installs in a year, and they're like, our company doesn't do that. One individual did that. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're just, their minds are blown. They're like, whoa, our company does 20 a month. If we did 10 months, we still wouldn't hit a golden door as a team, and they don't realize that there's individuals that do that. And then they say, well, what does it take to be on that stage? And then they say, I'm going to be on that stage next year. And they make a commitment and they say, I'm going to do what it takes. And literally I had one submitted today in solar, and this is his third golden door. And I just saw it come through our thing. And I'm like, dude, like it meant the world to him, which he now gets a platinum door. This year, we're giving away our first cleaner award, which is 6 years in a row, golden doored.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So like, it's even elevated, the game of consistency, the game of, double golden doors, platinum awards, which is 3 years, diamond, 5 years, cleaner award, 6 years, where Tim Grover is signing it and sending a video. Like it's become a culture of like, how do I promote? Like I know companies that give their guys Teslas for hitting golden doors. I know,
Oh,
that
I've seen that all across the board.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's like you get on that stage because it's used for recruiting, it's used for clout, it's used for like a staple, which is it's really cool.
That is incredible. What does it mean to you though? Like what how do you feel when you see so many businesses like putting cars incentives behind it? I went to Bright Solar in St. George, Utah, and they were giving away these brand new TRX trucks. And I just for people that hit golden doors and all these sales organizations I talk with, one of their goals, I was just training someone a couple days ago. One of his goals that he told me for 25 was that he wanted to get a golden door award. It was one of the 3 goals he had. How does that make you feel?
It's cool. It's like a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're an influence," and I'm like, "Influence is really just me curating a space." Like I like the idea of just I get to hold a space or create an experience of culture, and I think that the Golden Door has created a new culture in the space, and it's like it's an honor. I feel like it's not mine anymore. I feel like this is the industry's, and I just happen to be the guy that gets to MC it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's really a cool privilege to see it take off and have an industry recognition. And we're actually launching this year a couple other cool industry recognition things at DoorDoorCon. We have the sales blacklist coming back, which we all know
Ah,
that
tell it
that
okay.
yes. So I was like, I'm bringing the blacklist back. We have a certification. We've been working with the RSA. We're launching, and a lot of other cool like kind of instead of like go through our training platform, it's like no, go get certified in door to door. And so that's kind of a cool thing. So like we're trying to create tangible like here is something that I can leave behind, because it's like I don't want this to be the Sam show. I don't think you want SolarCon to be the Jake show. You know what I mean? It's like this is
Definitely not.
an industry thing, and so I feel like the Golden Door has been something that really is much bigger than me, which is really fun.
That honestly, it is fun. It's fun to watch everyone get excited about it, and, beautiful build that you did. I'm happy to hear that you have all of these different like, you've adapted. You have all these different awards now, the Platinum Award, the Clean Award. Is it Clean Award or Clean Sweep?
Cleaner. It comes from
Cleaner Award.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But all of these things, the RSA participating with them to create trainings, the new awards, the conference itself, the speakers. Why did you want to create a conference to begin with?
I didn't want to actually. So
Oh,
I know this is it. It's so funny you ask. Like this is a story that nobody knows. I'm sitting on a rock in the desert, meditating on a 3-day fast, and it was day 2, and it was like God's like, you need to throw an event, and I'm like, no, I've never been to a conference, let alone thrown a conference, let alone had
no
any
way.
reason to. Yeah, and I fought it for like 2-3 months, and finally I was like, it just kept knocking, and I think when opportunity knocks, it's like especially when it's so loud, it's like, "You need to do this," and it's like, "Okay, fine," and so then I start posting on Facebook, and I'm like, "What should we call it?" Of course, we come up with Door to Door Con, which a lot of puns on that, and I see a lot of,
For
like,
sure.
sometimes, but it was more like, okay, you had Comic-Con and FitCon, and, you had all these conference it's, like, lame, Door to Door Conference, it's just, like, so long, so I was like, "Shorten it, call it Door to Door Con." Here we go, so
So you're saying that you just kinda had a calling, not necessarily from God, but you heard it, but you had, like, this intrinsic feeling like, "I need to go out there and create this," because you just wanted to make impact? You just
yeah,
felt a responsibility?
I felt okay. So it was, yeah, there was like no one was taking responsibility because we did have the sales blacklist then that we created. There was nobody sharing practices. There was no unity. It was like so much dog eat dog world in this industry. It's like guys stealing everybody's reps, Wild West. There's no loyalty. Like, and I was just like, okay, let's like unify, up level, bring honor, integrity to this space because it's such a beautiful industry, but it gets such a bad rap. And so I wanted to give some swagger, some like cool factor to it because, when somebody graduates college and they tell their mom, I'm going to go knock doors, the mom's like, no, 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 don't do that. It's like, no, we wanted to like, no, it's got its own conference. It's got its own training, now certifications. It's got its like, it's a
Oh,
thing.
like, it brought some legitimacy to the profession.
Yes. Let's bring some
Awesome.
legitimacy to it.
That's incredible. So, I do have a spicy question for you a little bit later talking about the dog eat dog world with this
Yes.
build of the conference. It's coming up. But I want everyone on here, all the listeners, to know I do have some questions for Sam that are not pertaining to the conference. You got to stay tuned for those because I think there's some very valuable ones, things that I'm actually pretty excited to learn from myself. So you're on your 8th year of the largest door-to-door conference in the world. What have you had to go through to get this far? I know there's a lot of politics involved. You might have gone through loss. What other challenges might there have been?
Yeah, I think the obvious one is loss. Everybody does like math in their head, and you could relate to this one with SolarCon. Because I remember we've had offline conversations about this where I'm like, "Hey, how much did you lose?" Where most people in their
My
head,
mind.
yeah, like like they're doing math, right? They're like, "Okay, he had 5,000 people or 3,000 people or however many." They do the total ticket sales. They take the vendor costs, and then they're like, "Dude, you just made like $2 million." I'm like,
No,
"No, bro, that's not how these go." So
absolutely not.
lost money the first 3 years. And so like when you're in a losing business where this is a negative income source, you start to like ask yourself, you're like, okay, how long do I do this where I just keep throwing money at this and hope it one day produces a profit? And then how do I create where it does create a profit? You know what I mean? Because there's like one thing of a brand, there's one thing of like, networking, there's another thing of like, but it's like, okay, at some point you're like, I'm not a charity, okay? This is not a nonprofit. And I think that was a hard part. And then just the political game of like, dude, from Sunrun to, I mean, they sued me because this year I launched the thing called a league, and they were like, "Hey, you trademark, you infringed we have the league internally," and I'm like, "So you've patented the word league, like the football league or like the National Hockey League?"
Yeah.
Like I was like, "So wait a minute, hold on, let me look this up." You know what I mean? It just like still so many people like throw rocks, and you're just like, "Wait a minute, like." What are you like, why are you trying to bash on this? Like, what do you have, what bone do you have to pick? Like, I'm trying to help the entirety of the industry. I have no dog in this fight. Like, it's not like I'm a competitor. I'm not X company trying to steal your reps, which you've lived in. So like, why are we against this? And it's just been interesting, the political game I've had to fight to try to like maintain integrity to the mission.
Yeah, I maybe I can press on that a little bit if you're okay with it. The political game. I know from experience that sometimes businesses don't want to participate if other businesses are going to be there, or if this person is speaking on stage, then I can't help promote it, or the list goes on forever. How do you balance all of that?
I think, and that's a great question. And there's very, very, very few people in this industry that could probably relate like us. So everyone listening, you're probably like, I don't get it. Like it's a boys club. It's stupid. And it's like this game of like, oh, but he took my rep. It's like, I am the most neutral human. Like, I don't care. He didn't take my rep. So why am I going to discredit him because he took your rep? Like, you know what I mean? Or you get a speaker on there, they're like, oh, that guy's shady. And you're like, how am I supposed to know? And what facts do you have to know that he is shady? Or is this just your recruiting strategy? You know what I mean? And there's just so
Yeah.
much of that. So my how I've handled that is just, hey, I have one true value. It's if I do catch shady, then and you can show me proof, then I'll just like, blacklist that guy. Like I'm just like, he's not on my cool side. But
Hmm.
just because it's like emotional, that's not going to get me very far. And I've always remained neutral. I don't have equity in a company. And many companies have been like, hey, I'll give you a percent of my company, or can you recruit for me? And I've had to turn down very, very, very good offers because it's just like, no, I am neutral. And I want to authentically be able to say, like Switzerland, that I don't care if you're Good Leap and you're bashing on this bank. I don't care if you're this, end phase and Solar Edge or like all these different things. And I'm just like, come all, let's think abundantly. We can all work in collaboration instead of competition. And that was a big part of this mission, was unity. And I just was like, can I be glue, even though they've got like fight on, you know what I mean?
Well, speaking of that fight and speaking of a little bit of unfairness, I this is the spicy question I warn people about here. Your first year had some unfair obstacles, I would say. How did you contend with those giants that sought to discredit and prevent you from succeeding? Maybe you could tell us a little bit of this story.
Yeah. So
Or
I'm actually
rumor has it you're gonna tell us at your conference,
No,
right?
I'm going to share this at Door for the first time. I've
Phew.
always held my tongue, and I'll try to be as neutral and cordial as I can. But it was a dick move. So I worked for a company called Vivint, and they were the big orange giant, multi-billion-dollar company. I was their top rep. I was, like their poster boy. I was in their training videos, and then I left and did solar for a couple years. So it wasn't even like I'd been at that company for 2 years. And they find out that I'm doing this thing at the Salt Palace, and they looked at it as an opportunity to recruit and or kibosh. I don't know. Like it's like, why didn't we think of this or something? I don't know where their heads were at, but literally, I get a call Monday. Our event's Friday, Saturday, and they're like, "Hey, just want to give you a heads up. We're throwing an event down the hall at the same place. We're bringing in Grant Cardone, and it's free." And I'm like, wait, what? Like, why? Like,
Uh,
what? There's a million venues you could pick from. Like, it has to be the same time. And I'm like, why don't you just bring them to Door Con, and I'd be more than happy to give you a massive deal or whatever for bringing Grant Cardone. You can bring as many people as you want free. Like, I don't
yeah,
care.
it's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, I was like you brought Grant Cardone. That's a big deal. I have no budget. I'm already losing $100,000 on this. Good job, dude. Like, and I had sold like 200 tickets at this point, so I'm already tripping balls. Like, I'm over here like I'm about to lose like 300 grand. I did a shoestring budget, like bootstrapped everything, and we're at 200 tickets, and it's Monday, and I'm
Oh.
like,
Oh.
I literally cried that night. Like, I was literally crying, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm losing money.
Hmm.
I just quit my VP role at Solstice. So it's like, I was like, burn the boats. I'm going all in. So it was like, that was like 3
Oh,
weeks
hell.
prior, bro. And I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm like, this is so dumb. And I'm like, I don't want to embarrass myself. This is so sad. I got these couple hundred people. Do I just text them and say, F it, we're changing dates or something? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm like, no. So I don't do anything, and I just shut my mouth. Turns out they do their event. Grant Cardone's confused because he sees signs going this way, but he's getting pointed to go this way. And there's this like weird division, and they have these big letters on the stage that say hashtag only Vivint, like big old like foam letters. And they're just recruiting and bashing on other companies. And half my audience left day 2 during that time.
Oh, man.
Went to want to go see Grant Cardone, but within 45 minutes, they're all walking back. And I'm like, that was fast. Like, why are they coming back so fast? Well, lo and behold, I have probably 100 screenshots of social media posts of just like Vivint embarrassed themselves. Like, they just were everything against our mission. It was, it's funny. Kevin Swiss this year is speaking at Door Con. He was their
Oh,
chief
cool.
officer. I know, full circle, right? Like,
Yeah.
he was over culture at Vivint. And
Uh-huh.
I have a screenshot of him posting. He's like, can't add class to the classless. This is his own company. He's talking about Cardone because Cardone called Todd Peterson's wife easy. Todd's over here
Oh,
calling,
I didn't know that. Goodness.
like, it just was a shit show. Like, and they all admitted it. I mean, like, even their own regionals, their own people are sitting there going, how embarrassing, because of the energy. And it wasn't that their approach, I think the approach that they took was wrong because they could have collaboratively, like I do with you, like after SolarCon, I'm doing a thing the day after you
Mhm.
last year at Door Con, did a dinner. I'm like, yeah, do it like coexist around it. Like, that's the smart play.
Yeah.
And I just said, but I think that the intention, when there was such a polarity of mission behind up level, come together, work together, unify, like honor, and then they walk out the hall and all they see is bashing, low sales frequency, like, and so they all just walk back and they're like, that, wow. And that day was like the best thing that ever happened to me, because it like fueled this fire of like, we need this more than anything. Like, this needs to exist.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. They just kind of felt the energy in the room. You were doing it for all the right reasons. You wanted to help people. You wanted to make an impact, and they were doing it to compete and to discredit. And yeah, it's kind of cool that everyone banded together and felt that and sent you those text messages. That had to
Yeah.
be extremely edifying.
Well, what was cool, like John Frampton was the VP of Solar City that same time.
Mm-hmm.
He called me like right after he saw the post from Vivint to be like, we're throwing an event. He's like, what do you need, man? Put me in. And then you had like Karen from Vantage. He was like, put me in. Like, what do you need? I'll bring my teams. We ended up selling 600 tickets the week of. So we ended up having 800 people at Door to Door Con 1. And I think it's just because all the
Amazing.
people that were kind of anti the giant, even though they're big, Solar City at the time had 1,600 sales reps. Like, I mean, bigger groups, but they were like, oh shoot, Sam, I see this Goliath fighting the David. Like, can we get your back? And that like really created this brotherhood and unity element that had never been seen before around this mission, which was really, really cool.
I didn't know that part of the story. John Frampton's helped me too. I didn't know
Yeah.
you had that kind of backing and that kind of support at that time. That's great to hear.
Yeah, it was really
There's good
cool.
people. Yeah.
They're really good people. Like big shout out to John and Nevo and a lot of those groups that really did get behind it. Graham Wood at Fluent, and I
Yeah.
just were very very relevant people that I was like, me, like really, you're gonna help me, like what I mean? I'm just like this little guy. Like I'm like okay, like
Yeah, okay, I'll take it.
yeah, I'll take it. Like all right, let's rally. You know.
Hey, so yeah, thanks for sharing that, by the way. I know that's probably not an easy thing. I'm going to Door Con. I'm really excited to hear that story because I couldn't imagine. I didn't have that my first year. I couldn't imagine going through something like that. That would be heart-wrenching for sure. I'm glad you came out on top.
Yeah, and I took it an energy of like just say nothing. Let them do their thing and you do your thing. And I'm so grateful. And I haven't said and I haven't held resistance and I've invited them every year. I'm like, you guys should come. I ask one of their top leaders to speak. They deny. And it's cool. I'm like, you're part of the door to door, whether you like it or not. I
Yeah.
remember I called Todd Peterson a couple years ago, or like 4 or 5 years ago. And he was like, I'd never be caught dead speaking at a door to door convention. And I was like,
Wait.
what? You start like you're the OG, dude. Like, and then maybe 2 years ago, I called him again. This was probably 6 years ago that I called him on that. And then 2 years ago, he's like, yeah, man, like, how can I get involved? And I was just like, it's cool to see people kind of change their tune. And
There
I
we
just
go.
neutral, like, no hard feelings, forgive. We love you. Go figure it out.
Well, enough of the past. Let's talk about what's coming up. What sets this year's year 8? What sets this year's conference apart from the rest? Give us some juicy nuggets here.
I think we have an amazing workshop lineup, but I also think like the solar CEO panel or like, the Golden Door panel for solar, like the industry and SolarCon and DoorDoorCon, like they need to go to this. Like if they're serious about their job, like they need it. Like I look at the industry and where it's at. If they don't come together and learn from what's the up and coming banks, like we have Sunlight launching their new thing, and all these different like opportunities, and they don't know about them because the vendors, the technology, the AI panels, to the you know what I mean, like the solar top reps that crushed this year, and they're over there complaining about man the interest rates or man the dividend, like the Sonovas of
Dealer
the world,
fees.
like
Yeah.
this fear. I'm like, cool, go into 2025 with that energy and see what happens versus have a shift in tune and some of the stuff we're launching and some of the stuff that's like being talked about at these conferences. I'm like, or you could see the perspective of, man, it's better than ever and people are crushing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
just
you're
think
around your peers. You're around the people that want the same thing.
yes. So I think that's a big one. I think some of the certification, the blacklist, some of these free tools we're launching, and I think also like we picked some more entertainment speakers that we've never done. So we have Harry Mack, but he's badass,
Oh,
like
yeah.
teller.
Oh, yeah.
And I
We're
just did a
excited about
podcast
him.
with him, and he is smart. I mean, you think of freestyle and the quickness, the wittiness, the speed in which that has to do with our job as entrepreneurs, salespeople, and leaders. It's
Mhm.
also correlated. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize this is all selling." And like he had a mind blown as we like went through our podcast, and I showed him the correlations. He's like, "Oh shoot, I'm more than ever excited." You have guys like Mike Posner who
Did you
hyped
give
Mount
him 5 words? Did you give Harry Mack 5 words?
no, he did a little riff. He did a little riff, but he's like, "I'll save that for the show." And I was like, "All right, all right."
All right,
He
that's
wanted
fair.
to give us some words, yeah. Uh, yeah, I was like, "Can I have you do one of those cameos with me?" Like, I was like on this podcast, like,
Yeah.
and he was like, "No, I don't have my stuff," and it was funny. Um, But yeah, a lot of cool speakers, a lot of exciting stuff. And we have an owners day actually that's never happened on the 7th. So like it's free. You don't even have to have a door-to-door con ticket from 3 to 6 on January 7th. It's just an open owners kind of mastermind day, which is kind of cool too. So that's unique.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I don't want to take away from the value of everything you've created. That conference, door to door experts, the Golden Door Awards, all of that has made massive impact. But I do have to ask you another question outside of that. Is the door to door platform you've created your end game, or does Sam Taggart have another idea waiting to get out?
Lots. I think there's an evolution that comes where I get to pass the baton. You know what I mean? I think like it's finally getting to a point, and I've intentionally done this over 3 years, where it's like it's not the Sam show. This is the you guys show, and it's been really fun to see our company scale. We've got 50 employees now, and a CRO and executive teams, and so things have actually started to automate themselves to really go much more beyond me having to paint the bold letters in the back and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like year one, it's like very much like you're doing it all the jobs. For this year, I'm like all I'm focused is on my speech. Like I'm just a keynote like everybody else more, and I pick the speakers and that's it. Like, so it's been fun to see. So, cause I really am passionate about scaling companies, and I'm much more of a company starter than I am a company maintainer, I think.
Hey, yeah, you're a creator.
Yeah, I have like a lot of creative juices, and I tell my team, I'm like, I apologize because I'm starting a new business again. You know what I mean? I start new companies all the time, and they're like, "Sam, how many companies do you want to start?" I'm like, "Shut up, okay." So
All of
just
them, all the
all of
companies.
those, and so it's cool. I'm moving into a little bit of the private equity sector right now, and just doing some cool acquisitions on the side, and that's kind of fun. And so I could see myself playing a little bit more on the private equity investor consultant side of things with companies, and that to me excites me just because it's fun to watch a young entrepreneur that went from door knocker to CEO to then having an acquisition and an exit, and be able to kind of hold their hand through all of that. And we're actually making that happen right now, which is actually really cool. So
Ooh, that's super cool. Are we I mean, I don't want you to spill the beans, but do we have a Shark Tank situation coming up or what?
not in solar. Solar's got some maturation, in my opinion. It's like private money right now does not want to necessarily play in this game with all the craziness, but I think over the next year or two, you're going to start to see a little bit more start to come back. I think the private money's moving this direction. It's just got to like stabilize itself out a little bit, but you'll see
Yeah,
some in the
solar, the industry's not as stable right now? I didn't know.
it's just,
I didn't know.
it's a little bit more risk. Like political elements have to do with things. And,
If you could help people understand one thing about your mission, what would it be?
I mean, the biggest thing is to, like I said earlier, is to unify, up level, bring honor and integrity to the door to door space. But I think beyond that, it's one word: transformation. It's like I get off like I get texts on a daily basis of just like today. Let me just read the one. A window guy out of you know I gotta text him back actually. This is probably embarrassing, but hey Sam, happy holidays, brothers. How are you? Hope all's well. Wanted to share with you on your podcast at the beginning of 2022, we talked about hitting a goal of 20 million, but we only netted 6. We had a mega growth pains and only hit 5 million the next year. But we stuck with the target, and today we crossed 20 million in 2024.
Hey.
And they're the first window company to sponsor the Portland Trailblazers, which is actually pretty cool
Oh,
too.
wow. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
but like to just hear like that was yesterday. I get these like every day where you work with a company owner, help them get to a big mark, and it took them a little longer than they were expecting, but like to get a text like that to where you're like, he's obviously seen you as a catalyst, or else he wouldn't reach out and like want to share that with you. You know what I mean? Like that to
Yeah,
me
you
is
had
like,
an impact in his life, and yeah, he wanted to share.
yeah.
I'm gonna push you a little bit further, Sam. I know that you help people in the door-to-door space and the business space, but you've gone through some other growths that I've been able to witness over the years, with family, with your kids, with friends. What is your overall mission, not just with door to door, not with your work, but what's your overall mission here on this planet Earth as far as like all the people that you care about and the work that you do?
um I think it's just to be a light, to be an example, to be an instrument in God's hands. And I think I wrote a book that I didn't even care if how many people bought it. It's called The Self Experience. And it was about that. And it was actually series one of a 3-part series. So hopefully the second and third part come out. I've been developing an app called Expand, which is a human development system for the last 3 years. Stupid. I have to freaking sue the dev teams, and it's been a freaking
Oh
like
no.
it was supposed to come out door to work on 6, then door to work on 7, and it's still not out. And I'm like, are
You're
you?
like, I have a mission. You guys aren't
I
seeing
know.
it.
I'm
Get it
like,
out.
you're stopping the growth, and I'm like, the world's not ready for it yet. Okay. Uh, so anyway, but it's really to like stay in this surrender of what does God need me to be doing and when and where, and being open to that flow. And I think sometimes there's chapters in life, but if I can help be a light, a little, Tinkerbell for somebody that they need it, you know what I mean? Just like float
Yeah.
around and be like, hey, I'm here to support you. That's probably a dumb analogy. I called myself a Tinkerbell, but um,
Hey, that's
hey,
good. You
well,
said earlier you wanted to be a light in people's life. Tinker's
yeah,
a
like
light.
I just think of a little like light, you know what I mean? But like at the end of the day, like how can I be a catalyst for change, whether that's in an industry or an individual's life, in a relationship? And I had a guy reach out just barely about addiction, and he's just like, dude, I just need help with this, not this. And I was like, good, that I would be way more excited to help you become sober than to like go make $1 million. Like that's cool, but if
Oh,
you're
right on.
you know what I mean? Like, how can I
Yeah.
help you? Like, I'm here to support. Let's sync up, bro. So,
There's a greater mission. And you said a book to help with that inspiration. What was the name of that book again?
so the book, it's called The Self Experience with an X.
Right on. So you read this book. It kind of transformed things
And I
for
wrote
you.
this book. So that was like I wrote that one about the bigger mission to help people find their own self experience.
Sorry, you wrote the book. I should have
Yeah.
known that. My goodness. All right.
No,
So
not so people know about it. It's on Amazon. You can go get it.
you have another book coming out though. Can you give us some secrets about that book before it does come out?
Yeah. So this one's called Eat What You Kill. It drops January 14th. Um, I like writing. I like creating. I think we're all built as creators, right? And writing the self experience was just to me to tell my story and get my like bigger mission thoughts out, not just sales thoughts. This book is like, okay, can I get like a staple, like, how to win friends and influence, like really well done. I used a actual Penguin Random House to
Brian
publish it.
Tracy.
Yeah, but like, how do I get like a legacy book where it's like it lives so much longer than just an industry or just this? So it's like anybody in sales, like whether you're selling on the phone, you're selling direct to home, consumer, B2B. It's about becoming a sales carnivore, because I think a big piece of my mission is to help people find freedom. That could be financial freedom, that could be spiritual freedom, that could be kind of this internal freedom. But I think step one of financial freedom is being self-reliant and being able to be a carnivore instead of being so reliant on everybody else. Like if you, like, I don't know, the company says, hey, we're doing layoffs, and you're the first to get laid off. Like that sucks. Like, or, hey, this industry shifts, and you're like, what am I going to do? It's like, no, I'm a carnivore. I know how to go create regardless. Like I go hunt, I'm not afraid to go eat what I kill. And so I'm not dependent on, therefore it creates this sense of freedom within. And so I teach like the mentalities, the pitch, the presenting, the closing, objection handling. I teach a lot of like this element of selling, but from a carnivore like approach, where a lot of the sales books, like if you have a lead or you're sitting in a car dealership and somebody shows up, here's how you would talk to them. Instead of
Right.
like I'm gonna go find it regardless, no leads, no whatever. I know how to go hunt, which
Right.
I
So
think
most of the sales books are on the philosophy of sales. Yours is on the philosophy of mindset within sales. And I like what you were saying because, carnivores typically they're agile, they show strength, they're intuitive to some degree, right? So I like that. I
well,
like that carnivore mindset.
I think of the solar industry right now needs it more than ever. Like if you're a solar owner, it's like get this book for your entire sales team, because it's like my leads spend might not go as far as it used to, or hey, my cost of acquisition is different because of interest rates, and so I can't charge the same. And I'm like, okay, cool. The industry shifted a little bit. You're still like trying to live like you did 3 years ago, or are you like willing to pick up phone? Like, how do you get your guys hunting? You know what I mean? Like, And
Yeah.
that's what the book's about. And it gives you tactical strategies on how to do so. So it's got like 45 chapters. It's pretty dope. It's good. It's a good book.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome, and I agree with you. The solar industry could definitely use that. Some organiza going back to your conference and what you just said about people in our industry needing that kind of guidance or needing that kind of mindset. Some organizations say they won't participate because it's bad for their PR. How does that make you feel? What would you say to them?
I mean, it blows my mind still. Like it still blows my mind in the sense of people are trying to throw rocks in a scarcity mentality. It's bad for their PR because they think I am, if my people go learn from somebody that's not me, I will then lessen my influence. And I remember I asked a guy, I was like, hey, you coming to Door Con? And he's like, no, my regional said not to go. I don't need that. And I was like, and I go, well, why do you think he said that? He's like, well, we have all the training we need here. And I go, wow, that's a guy I would want to follow. That's a great leader. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's bad for your. I'm like, hold on, let's like think about this. So if he said, does he tell you not to go to a Tony Robbins event too? And he kind of stops for a second and he's like,
That's
well,
a good point.
so I asked him that question. I said, so did he tell you not to go to a Tony Robbins event? He's like, actually, yeah, he did. He said not to go. I go, oh, smart. So is that bad for your PR to go like personally invest in yourself to then get better? And I was like, is this conference designed for him to lose you potentially to another opportunity or whatever? And is he approaching this from a sense of what if I'm exposed? What if my people learn something that I wasn't able to teach them? What if they saw like a bigger picture and it like devalued me? I was like, is that what he's thinking? And so he's telling you not to go. And I was like, and he's like, oh shit. And it wasn't like I was trying to downgrade. I just simply was saying like there's scarcity mindsets and abundant mindsets. And people that say it's bad for my PR because they don't want to be associated with door to door con or solar con or the people that go. And I'm like, wait, like-minded people looking to grow and develop themselves and collectively come together and support an industry as a whole? Huh. Anybody that bashes on that, I would simply call them out and I would say that is piss poor leadership. You are in a scarcity mindset and piss off. Like that's literally what I would say. And I've had to say that to people. I said, good, we don't like people like you coming to our conference because it lessens the frequency and the vibe. So please don't come.
Vamoose, get out of here.
Vibes. I was like, leave the bad vibes at the door. Like I'm like, cool. Like we don't like people like you coming.
That is interesting because if so many people are coming in under one roof together that are in the same mentality, that have the same profession, they're all going to have different experiences and different things that work with them. You can't just say that your circle that you're in is going to be the only way to do it, and that doesn't apply to anything in life. Why would it apply to this
Yeah,
profession?
like I'm sorry, my bookshelf can only have a certain color of book. Like, like it's just like, wait a minute, like that would be like me saying, don't watch, only watch the adventure section on Netflix. You can't watch the comedy section.
Interesting.
Like seriously,
So you used to sell quite a bit, right? You were at Vivint, and then you went to, where was it?
Celsius.
Celsius. Um, what happened in your life that inspired you to drop selling and create the country's most well-known door knocking experience and education?
Here's a story that most people don't know. Actually, this is good. So I was at Vivint, and I was their top rep in 2014. And out of a couple thousand salespeople, that's pretty good. And I always would, being the number one guy, you get calls and texts all the time, right? Like, hey, what's your pitch? What's this? And so I was like, what if I created a Facebook group and we just shared tips and tricks and tactics, and that way it's saved somewhere. And I started Can't Knock This Tribe group thing. Now it's called the Door to Door Sales Tribe or whatever it's called. And it's got so it started to pick up steam, and we got a couple hundred people in there pretty quickly. And this was in 2014. And then Vivint shut it down. They're like, you need to stop. So they shut it down. And I was like, what? Exactly. I'm like, freedom of speech. Like I was like, I'm a retaliator. And that's maybe got me so. So anyway, I started it again the next year, and they're like, dude, we told you to take this down. Do we have to like file a complaint? I was like, oh shoot. So I then went rogue because I was in Vivint's training and I got
You went
frustrated.
rogue.
I went rogue. So I'm in Vivint's training videos and they took out like 30% of the good stuff. And it wasn't because they just wanted to make it aesthetically and cut down on time, but they also were like, there could be an interpretive gray line there. So we've got to take all that out. And I'm
Mm.
like, so your training videos are like all impartial, or they're all like partial training videos. So I go and make my own internal website on wix.com or whatever. And I built all my training videos for my own team. And we called it the Pack website. And I just trained my own internal team. We ended up having out of 150 sales teams, the number 2 per rep average for rookies. And then everybody's asking me like, Sam, how do your first year guys do so well? I'm like, they actually have good training videos. Like I made my own. And I went to
Oh,
all
dang, that's talking some loud trash right there.
I
They
know. And
actually
I'm
have
like,
good
they
videos.
actually have good videos to $1 billion company. And
Yeah.
they're all like, what the hell? So this gets out and starts to go viral with amongst like all these other teams. And I was like, well, you have to be on my team. So it's like a recruiting ploy, blah, 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 right? And then Vin was like, you have to shut that down. I'm like, no, I can make and train my people. I'm just using the interweb to show how to do so. And they're like, no, you can't do that. So I leave Vivint, I quit and got into solar. And I was like, I don't have any use for these alarm videos anymore. Might as well like make them free to the public. And I kind of gave Vivint the middle finger and I was like, sucks to suck. What are you gonna do? So
The
I made
giant,
it
the
free.
multi-billion-dollar giant.
Yeah,
Sucks
I
to be
was like,
you.
so you can see where they're kind of like, okay, screw you, Sam. So I was like, because they kept trying to, for legal purposes, they didn't want anything on the internet. And so I was like, free training for all alarm people. So I had like hundreds of views every day on my website that was from Brinks, ADT, just all over the country of these random people. And this became their adopted training videos. And I go to solar and I go to the training company, or I said, what training do you have? And I start asking around to other trainers, and there was no solar training. There was no internal training videos. And I'm trying to recruit reps on reps. And I'm like, how do I streamline this? I did this in alarms. Why don't I make one internally for Solstice? Then all the dealers at Solstice started wanting to use it. And I was like, well, I just spent all this time and
Oh,
money.
you're
I was
onto
like, why would I
something.
just give it to your dealers? And then I was like, okay, fine. And then I was like, maybe the whole industry needs something. And because I watched what happened in the alarm space. And then I was like, what if I did this in the solar space? And that's what actually started D2DU. And then I rebirthed my Facebook group and started a podcast. And that's actually kind of where everything started to stack up on each other, is because of how popular the Facebook and the free videos that I was giving the alarm people, because I wasn't even doing alarms anymore, actually took off, which nobody really knows. That's where D2D University kind of incubated for a couple of years.
Yeah, I had no idea. I'm going to talk a little bit on a personal level here from my experience. I created videos. I know other people do. I created training videos. I had a company called Helio Gold, and I was tired of all the questions coming to me. I was
Yes.
just like, man, there's got to be a more efficient way. So I created videos and I gave them to my people, and I'm like, watch these videos, and they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't. I spent like, for me, it was 50 grand at the time. That was a lot. I spent like 50 grand creating these things and never watched them. I ended up dropping that and selling them to the solar industry, and people bought them. Why is it, for anyone that's creating videos out there, how did you get people to watch your videos and learn from them within your own organization? Typically, I mean, isn't it true that if they pay and invest in themselves, they're going to find more value in it? How did you build that value that your people wanted to watch these videos?
Well, I kept showcasing, and I have now 60,000 people who have gone through our training system, and we've just revamped over the last
Woo-hoo.
8 years.
Congrats.
Yeah, like we've trained a lot. So we have a lot of data points. We try to track these people. We try to like check in regularly. Um, and we've had 750 companies adopt our training system, where we fly out, we film, we edit. So like when I say this answer, it's coming from like 8 years plus of trying to like figure your problem out, which is, how do I get my people to watch the videos? And I would answer it in 3 ways. The first one is what's the incentive to watch it? That's not just sell more.
Hmm.
So training changes after you finish XYZ. Your sale, you can't become a closer until you've done X. You know what I mean? So like, what's the incentive? So you get X bonus of training pay once you've got X. And so it's aligning your training incentive. Number two is it good content? A lot of people put really boring, not so great content. And then how do you associate the good content to the guys selling the most? And we have data behind this. are the guys that invest in themselves and watch the videos. Like hands down. It's like the owner is the dude that watched the most videos. I'm like, bro, this is for your people. And he's like, I know, but it was so good. You know what I mean? And it's like, and but I'm like, that's probably why you're the owner, and that's probably why they're still broke. You
Fair.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And it's if they can just keep singing that song really loud. Oh, look at Tommy, he's the most usage in our platform, plus he's selling the most, and associate those two. And number three is what we're doing this year, which is very different, where there's tons of solar gurus and now, people that have created content and courses out there. But for the first time ever, come January, is the solar certification comes live. There's an apprentice, a pro, and a master certification, where from a third party, you'll actually be verified, where there's a 45-minute pass off, a 2-day event for the pro certification, where you'll get a stamp, something to put on the wall. And some people, it's like what got them through all 4 years of college is because they just wanted the piece of paper saying I have my bachelor's degree. Does that make sense? Like when
Yeah.
somebody says I'm a Harvard grad versus like I went to college, there's a very big distinguish there. And I think as we really start to leave this stamp of like, are you certified, yes or no, and getting people to buy into that, and from all the industry of solar, it doesn't matter if you're just order or not, because it has solar ethics where it's just basic knowledge that everyone has to stand by. I just was with Sean Ricks yesterday, who was over all of Vivint's compliance
Hmm.
and all their videos. And I hit him up. I ran into a ski resort yesterday, and it was so funny because we jammed on this. He's now CEO of a big roofing company. But he's like, I don't think people realize like what you're creating right now and how powerful it is, because if they have internal training and they get a third party certified training, and now there's a legal lawsuit, which there's tons of them happening right now,
Yep. A
and
lot of them.
it can now only fall onto the rep. So not only is it just a protective measure from legal consequences, it helps you give better like dummy questions, but it also just is like best practice, because I don't think there's I don't think a lot of these companies realize like one lawsuit puts you out. You know what I mean? One consumer report sitting on your 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 website or things like that, or BBB or whatever, can go so far. And do you really even know what your reps are saying out in a home? You know what I mean? Did you even have? And they're going to come to you and say, "What's your training?" And if you have none, and if you don't have some qualification, certification like backing that, there's some big ramifications that could go on your head, because they're not just be like, "Well, you're just being negligent at this point."
Absolutely. And one of the keywords that you said is third party. You're a third party training platform. And all of the sales organizations out there, all of the installers, specifically in the solar space, because you're talking about a solar accreditation, right?
Yes.
It's safer for them. I learned this through my years. It's safer for them to use a third party validated training program, because if you ever do get sued and it comes back to you that it was your training under your business, then you're going to be held liable. And I've learned from some of the big dogs, some of the greats, that getting that third party education actually is a form of protection for your business itself.
100%. And that's like why we're creating it for the industry. Like it's because I'm like, I want to protect this industry because it is getting shots fired at it. And there is a lot of bad actors out there that we need to blacklist, and we need to have some third party verification. You know what I mean? So that there is a element of this industry starting to stabilize itself.
I think you have some cojones to put that blacklist out. I cannot wait. I'm going to grab the popcorn. I'm going to be watching.
Yes, it is entertainment in some regards. It's not like Reddit, but I do get a lot of hate mail because like, I just got blacklisted, and it's like, oh, dude, I had 800 people on it when we first launched it in 2017, and
Oh, man. How
I
did
was
they
like,
get off? Is there a way to get off?
yeah, you have to reconcile. So the
All right.
company can say they've reconciled. So like, let's say that you stole, because I remember, and the reason I created it back in 2017, I had this guy named Brandon come to me, and he got a $30,000 sign-on bonus. Lo and behold, he got two other companies to give him $30,000 simultaneously. So like within the same recruiting conversations, he had gotten $90,000. We all had been played, didn't know it as happening simultaneously. And then he went dark for like 2 years. He changed his phone numbers, no social media, gone. And it's like, that guy's going to go to another company and probably ask for another 30 grand. You
Do
know
the
what I
same
mean?
thing. Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane.
It would be easier to go check a list.
Say, this guy's
Checklist.
blacklisted. Don't hire the guy. Don't give him money.
All right, I have a few more questions for you. I know we've taken some time. Thank you for hopping on this. Here we go. Reaching the spotlight like you have can come with some harsh criticism. Have the negative comments affected you in the past? What's your mindset to keep going? I've cried at night sometimes when
I
somebody
have.
gets
I mean, there are times where you're just like, man, these trolls. I actually okay, so I've shifted the mindset to being like, wow, you have so much time on your plate to go on somebody's post and like negatively talk about it. And then I'm like, I guarantee you if I look at your bank account, I am not going to feel bad about myself.
Mm,
like
there it
like
is.
I am not going, and then I look at like the mindset I have is like successful people root on other successful people. Unsuccessful people try to justify why they're unsuccessful. And so usually the criticism, and I've been, thrown rocks from big players too, but I'm like, they just don't get it. And so this mindset of like, if they knew and they got it, then great. But it's the people that like sit there and troll. I'm like, man, they're going to be really successful continuing on with this time wasting of trolling and like good job for those guys. Like, keep doing that, you know.
Oh, it looks like I put that on there for the listeners, but that was for me. Thank you, Sam. That was very helpful.
Yes, you needed that. It's true though, dude. You can't let it get to you. You're just like, man, look at their bank accounts and then
No,
you're like,
it is a thing. I mean, those Facebook groups, yours, everyone else is like it. There are people that go on and troll, and I have seen people. They've actually said that they don't go on and participate anymore, which is really sad because you created that platform as an educational piece for people to go and learn and feel safe, right? So when these trolls come out, I think that advice that you just gave, it resonated with me. I hadn't thought of it that way, and I think it's going to help a lot of people, a lot more people than we might think. Thank
yeah,
you.
and it's like when people see that, regardless who, everyone listening, you should just take a stance. Be like, get out of here and kick them out. And like comment positive things. It's like, how do we bring positive news to life? And there should be a lot of engagement in those groups, and more beacons of light versus these like bottom feeders that just freaking are scums of the earth. Like, good for those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and ask you a question that maybe some family members, some people struggling can go through. What advice would you give to anybody that's gone through a divorce and is looking to, I guess, kind of start over a little bit?
It's a great question. Divorce is no easy thing. And, I went to 7 years of counseling, 5 different counselors, trying to make it work. You know what I mean? Like, I think everybody has their own individual experience. And I would highly recommend going and getting that book I wrote called The Self Experience. I talk a lot about this because I don't want to take away from somebody's experience. Because I think divorce always is the easy answer. It's like, hey, it could be the hard answer and it could be the easy answer depending on your situation. I think some people stay in relationships longer than they should, and they're suffering without really, they shouldn't be suffering. And I think some people don't stay in relationships longer than they should because they're not willing to put in the work. I think any relationship is work. And anybody that thinks like a fairy tale, like, I don't care how good you have it, I don't care who you are, like, you're going to go at it. But it's how you heal, I think, is the big piece. And so anybody that's going through divorce, um, I think a big piece is a lot of people don't find their own power and they lose their power in their relationship. And so finding your own power, your own experience, your own desires, passions, etc., and finding your identity again, whether you're going through it and or just went through it, is the biggest piece. And so post divorce, it's like what an opportunity to create space to go find who your identity is. And after being so contagious to someone else's identity, because you're such in proximity all the time, you lose a lot of that. You
Mm,
come like this synergistic identity. So it's like, what a cool opportunity to find yourself again, and don't take that lightly. But really go on that journey of like, who am I as an individual? Then start to attract your mate instead of going to sympathy like rebound chick or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think that's where um, that would be my advice.
That sounds pretty grounded. It sounds like phenomenal advice. A little bit scary probably to go
Yeah,
find
it's like
yourself
you have
again.
to
And
let it go. You have to yeah, it's scary, but
you're so your kids, how do your kids see dad? Are they aware of your national recognition?
kind of. I try to be just like normal dad to them, you know what I mean? Like give them whatever the other kids' experience is, but at the same time, like I want them to see, like I'll bring them to door to door con simply to say, your dad's badass, because it's like being in a split parenting, it's like you don't get them all the time, and they don't get to see the accolades and like what you're working towards. And I'm very conscious of like, hey, I provide for you and your mom, and that's why she doesn't have to work. You know what I mean? Like, and this is what I do. And so they get excited to go up on stage. Last year they got to help with my speech, and they got to like carry the spoons and be part of it. And
That's
like,
great.
and Alton is on the phones and he's like, yeah, my stepdad's Sam Taggart, and he's selling door to door con tickets, and you know what I mean. Like I want them to feel they deserve the stage, the spotlight, the opportunity as well, and not be so sheltered in the sense of like, oh, I didn't even know. Like I want them to be like, proud dad, like that's my dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an incredible opportunity of a mindset shift that you might get to give your kids as well. They get to see what it's like to reach for the stars and to go push against the grain, like you have illustrated earlier in this podcast,
Which I
to
think
push against the giants. Like you've done tremendous work for them, and you've given them a platform for success.
I think a cool contrast is my stepson, not like his dad, his real dad, not a bad dude, good heart. Um, lived in his dad's basement, like very poor, super impoverished, had no job, ankle monitor, in house arrest. You know what I mean? Like in and out of rehab. And so just to have that contrast when he goes to dad's and then he comes here, it's like I've almost taken on this like responsibility, not to like shame or one up or anything like that. It's just like he gets to kind of see the polarity of like his superhero is still his dad, but I think when he grows up and he's 18, he's 21, he's 30, he's going to look back and be like, wow, I'm so grateful I had a really positive impact from he's 8 at this point, so it's really hard for him to comprehend that difference. But I'm sure as he starts to wise up, it's like, man, can he break a generational curse? Because like I look at his grandpa, his grandpa's grandpa, they're all like bus driver, homeless, like, you know what I mean? Just like didn't have much. And so to give him an opportunity is actually a really cool opportunity too, which is cool.
Yeah, you're also giving them something to contrast. It's kind of hard when you're, on one end of the spectrum. You think that's success in the decisions you're making, or you see the other end of the spectrum. Now your decisions mean something. Now they
Yeah,
can be a bit more impactful in the way that you make them and go through that process. So it might be a benefit to see those two sides of the spectrum, just simply so that they can contrast.
100%.
That's a really good perspective. So, uh, final 2 questions here. What advice would you give to a salesperson out there that is struggling?
Um, I think you just check these 3 things. And I think there's an element, first off, to just be radically honest. Because most people, if I said, hey, are you working hard? They're going to say, yeah, I'm like an 8 out of 10. Like I work hard. And I'm like, I've never heard anybody be like, I'm a 3. so, so like, you know what I mean? Like there's radical
Yeah,
honesty when I say these 3 categories. It's like really check in with your work ethic. And, it's like somebody saying like, I want to lose 10 pounds. But it's like, if I literally counted every calorie you put in your body, that would be a true accountability. Like there's no dishonesty to that. Instead of like, well, I snuck in some extra chocolates tonight because I was feeling emotional. Like you have to count for the chocolates too. You know what I mean?
for sure,
So
yeah.
it's like, did you knock the doors? Did you make the calls? Like, did you actually go put in the energy? Which is one. Number two is like, what are you doing to like improve your consumption? When I say consumption, it's like a lot of people are the trolls because they're trying to have woe is me, I'm struggling, and they're watching things to they're consuming to make themselves feel better instead of they're practicing and they're training to actually develop a skill. So the second thing is skill, and saying, what am I actually doing to invest in myself to become better at what I do? Because sales is a direct reflection of the value you bring. And if you're bringing more value, you're going to get more sales. You're going to have more value. So struggling sales rep is just a mirror of saying you emotionally, tactfully, energetically aren't bringing value to customers, or else they
Oh,
would be.
ouch. Yeah,
Like it's a mirror. It's like, okay, then increase your value, and the way to do that is get smarter, better tactfully. And that's where you can invest in training. And number three is what's your why, right? Like, I think a lot of people struggle unconsciously because they have no need to do more. Does that make sense? There's a
Yeah.
complacency factor. There's an ego factor. There's a Uncle Rico. Used to throw that football over the mountains factor. And that's like, that was 3 years ago, bro. It's like, like you're not selling like, yeah, cool. I don't get paid off of your performance 3 years ago. You don't either.
Right.
You suck, dude. Like, so I think this last one of just like understanding your why and like what gets you out of bed and out there every day would be, maybe you got to revisit that a little bit, and you have no mission really to sell more.
Next question. What advice would you give to somebody that might want to step into a role of massive impact like you have done?
Go sit on a rock for like days. I told you my story. Like, every quarter I go fast for 24 hours and sit on a rock. And it's been a practice of mine almost since I did that, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago. And I found like listening to revelation and really trusting. And then if that keeps coming, like mine, it kept knocking on my door. I meditate every day. Like, if something just isn't going away, it's probably the universe being like, you got to go like open that door. It keeps knocking, man. Like, opportunity's knocking. And then trust. And trust me, I have taken massive action on many things that have failed that you never know about. Like, this 3 years, I spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on an app that I'm having to send them a demand letter. Like,
I'm
nobody knows
sorry,
about.
that hurts. That hurts.
I just like, I could go on my list. I think where everybody sees on social media the highlight reel, when it's like, if I give you my list of, I'm foreclosing on a dude's house tomorrow because he's not paid me on a hard money loan. I'm out $500,000 on the money plus the interest that I would have made plus the money that it took out of Bitcoin when it was 60,000. You know what I mean? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
damn it. You know what I mean? And it's like, I lost $1,000,000 right there because I took a risk. And I think like, I could give you a long list, and that's tomorrow. That was this week I sent a demand letter, and it is on a regular basis. You're going to have failures. I think the reality is embrace those as learning lessons, but that shouldn't be stopping you from moving forward.
Yeah, it took you 8 years to become an overnight success.
Exactly.
All right, so final question. How all of these video trainings you have, your book, the conference that people should be going to, I'm going to be there. It's next week, right? Next week?
Yeah, it's like in a week. Yeah.
Yeah. How do they get a hold of all of this? What's the best way to is there one place that they can go to see this all?
The D2D has probably most everything, from getting a company training account to some coaching to our our conference, like d2dcon.com. I'd for sure go get your ticket. If you want to get the book, you can pre-order it on Amazon, Eat What You Kill. But I would just like reach out to us, like get on a call with one of our team members and they can walk you through like how we can help you. I think a lot of people have an ego of like, I don't need help, especially dudes, right? Like, I don't want to call them and tell them all my struggles and that I'm sucking. And I'm like, okay, just keep suffering, harbor your suck. That's cool.
Oh,
So
call
I
people
just,
out.
yeah, like, I don't know, like the fact that more people aren't talking about how they had a rough year, like, okay, like, let's just, like, I remember I took like 75 CEOs to Croatia this fall, and Mike O'Donnell, we're in a little group, and
Love
Mike's
him.
like, great dude. And he's been in our mastermind for years. And he's sitting in a little circle with all these solar guys, and they all just start to open up. And Mike's like, I thought I was the only one, he's like, what? Like, you guys have had your freaking nuts kicked in this year? Like, and he's like, he had no idea. And he was just like, oh, that just makes me feel so much better about myself. Like, and just like, just see some vulnerability. And then that radical honesty gives the opportunity for us to actually help and make some improvements. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's incredible. So, and then if people want to donate to the GoFundMe for your app, how do they do that? No.
sympathy
Hey,
donation.
Sam, thank you so much for coming on the show, my man. I'm excited to see you on stage next week, and anyone listening to this should be there. SolarCon supports this event. We have so many people in the solar industry, so many other industries that are going to be there. It is intoxicating, the type of energy that we leave with. I haven't had one person go to your event that hasn't said that they gained a new relationship or it's helped their business. It's one of the best things that you can do. I think you should be there. Come say hi to me. Come say hi to Sam. It's a beautiful
Okay.
event. And yeah, it inspired me to do mine. I think I've told you that. Our event wouldn't be what it is without yours. So thank you for leading the way and blazing that trail.
Appreciate you, Jake, and appreciate how you show up for the industry as well, man. So thank you for having me on the show.
All right, Sam, have a good one. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, man. We'll see you, my man.